Welcome back to redheart.com as well as the Crochet Crowd. I'm your host Mikey, and in today's tutorial it's about going beyond the granny square. In the world of crochet on a global level, the granny square is the most completed project ever that most people end up doing within their lifetime. And in fact, it's some things that people just continually do over and over and over because they've become very comfortable with it. But according to our inboxes here at redheart.com as well as the Crochet Crowd, we're noticing that people are tired of doing the square because they realize that their furniture is not square, our bodies are not square, and including our bedding is not square typically. So what we want to do today is take away the whole point of being a square and doing the granny concept but in a rectangular shape. And despite what people think, you know what, I'm really not a square either, and I'm actually more of a shape of a pear, but that's a video for another time. So I'm going to make a couple assumptions. I think a lot of people do not do rectangular granny square concept Afghans because they're very intimidated by the very center point, because you know, squares are very much easy. You don't really have to think much about it. They're worried about being able to turn it properly. And I've done this before where I really didn't understand the concept and I made the center point of my rectangular way too long. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to call that the backbone of my rectangular Afghan within this tutorial series. This is the very center point, because what you need to do is that we know that granny squares, they grow out equally, but so do the rectangles. So we have to figure out how long we need to go in order for the Afghan to be matching the bed length but also getting to the right size when it comes to width. This is really critical even for twin size beds because you need to figure out what those lengths are. When you're looking at the pattern, you're going to notice that the twin size has more starting chains than a king size or even a full or double size. Don't be confused by that. What that's telling me is that the Afghan is more of a rectangular the longer that it is. When you get up to queen size, for example, that is actually typically a square, so you don't have to worry about any of that. But you will notice that in the full size or even the king size that there really isn't that much of a big deal difference between the width and the length. It's like a foot difference, in some cases a foot and a half. So in the twin size there's a lot bigger difference. There's like a 2 foot or even more of a difference between one side versus the other in order to match it over your bed. Therefore the center point is actually going to be longer to compensate, and hopefully all of that just made sense for you right now. So let's get started on today's tutorial. This is so easy, you're gonna love it, and you may actually get hooked on the concept. So let's begin today. We are working on a twin size starting point of this, and here is a sample of the twin size just like you see. The center one here is the backbone. It's the very center point that I have figured out how long it needs to go in order to match the size when you come to your length and your width. And as I explained to you in the intro of this tutorial, is that you will need a longer backbone for this one because your Afghan is longer, much longer than it is wider. So let's begin today. We're just going to be using a size 5.5 or size I crochet hook, and we're also going to be using Red Heart with Love. You can use Super Saver or any comparable yarn. With this pattern that I've created today, you can basically substitute the yarn in the hook because the concept is essentially getting you to the size that you need in order to start off properly. So let's begin with a slip knot right now. To begin your rectangular twin size Afghan, you need to chain 58. Remember that this slip knot on here never counts as one. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and please go all the way to number 58, and we'll meet back up in just a moment and I'll show you how to create the backbone. So I've just done my 58 off camera just like you see here, and I want to explain something to you here. When I started off my chain, I really want to make sure that my sizing matches each other. So I didn't want to do anything ridiculous to the point where my inside centerpiece is going to look out of place. You will notice on these particular stitches that this bottom area is more compressed versus the top. So when I'm doing this particular backbone area here, I wanted to make sure that I maintain that as I'm going all the way along, and that will give you some insight. So let's begin. I'm gonna show you what to do next, and we're gonna work our way across this chain to begin. To begin, I want you to skip and go to the 4th chain from the hook. So 1, 2, 3, and 4, and I want you to double crochet 3 times. So do that, and then I'll explain something to you what you're actually looking at here. So what's happening here is that this is your first stitch in, But this gapping space here that you see, this whole thing that we just skipped over, is actually going to be the other side of the loop when it comes to going in the next round. We're going to be playing within that area. So we want to now maintain this hole going across, and so we're just going to chain 1 and we're going to skip 2 chains and go to the third and 3 double crochets again. And we just want to maintain that going all the way across. So here's your repeat pattern. Skip 2, go to the third and 3 double crochets in. And I want you to go almost all the way to the end. We're gonna meet back up at the end because I do not want you to finish up this row completely, because just like we have just skipped over to the 4th in the very beginning to create the outside loop that we're gonna be playing with, we're gonna be doing that the same on the other side in order to maintain this. So again, chain 1 and 3 double crochets. We skip 2 and go to the third one over, the 3 double crochets, and do that all the way across. So I've now come all the way back to the other side just like you see, and this is our backbone. You can see it looks like a train tracks. This is perfect. Now I told you I didn't want you to go all the way to the end because you could have actually just skipped over and did one more in the end, but then your pattern won't be right. What I need you to do at this point is just stick your hook in the beginning chain and just slip stitch it to bring it up together just like this, and pull everything nice and tight. So this loop here now becomes the outside edge for this one side, and the other loop on the other side just like there is the other side. So essentially now your backbone of your Afghan is done, and so now you can continue to do the granny square as normal. So I'm gonna show you how to get started for those that don't know how to do a granny square, and we'll do that right away. To begin a granny square and how to start from this point going forward is that we're gonna chain 3. So 1, 2 and 3. Now grab this straggler, okay, and I want you to put it down on top of the line just like you see, so you go around it. So on this one here we're completing half of the first corner. It's a partial, and we're gonna just double crochet 2 more times in it. The chaining of 3 counts as a double crochet, so in actual fact you have 3 if you look at it technically. So this is the first half of the corner on this side of your square, of your rectangular Afghan. We now want to chain 1, and now we want to complete the actual first or the second square side. Okay, so we're gonna do 3 double crochets in, and noticing I'm keeping the straggler down on top. This allows you not to have any loose ends hanging out of your work if you do so, and at the end you just trim it out, no problem. So we're gonna do 3 double crochets, chain 2, 1 and 2, and 3 double crochets all into that same gap, and this completes the second edge. It's the second corner. So you have one corner here just like you can see it now, and this is the first half, so the other half will be done when we come back. So now we're gonna just work our way across, and we're just gonna chain 1. So we're gonna, every time we skip over and move to the next gap, we're always gonna chain 1, and every gap space is gonna be 3 double crochets. So if you're familiar with granny squares, it's the same concept. So now that you got your 3, chain 1 and going into the next. So for 3 double crochets, okay, and chain 1 and then 3 into the next. So what I want you to do is go all the way to the other side of this, and I'll start to show you how to do the corners on the other side when you get there. So I'll meet you back up there in just a moment. So we come to the other side here, and this is the loop that I've been referring to all along, and I've already chained my 1 first, and now we're gonna immediately come into this looping gapping space on the outside. So you can clearly see that these 3 are together. This is the loop space. So we're gonna create the first corner on this, and we're gonna do 3 double crochet in to that same gapping space, okay, and chain 2, 1 and 2, and then 3 more into that same space, and that'll create the first part of the corner. So this is your first corner actually of this side, and now we have to chain 1 because this is now the other side of this project, and now we're gonna come back into that same spot and do 3 more double crochet in. Whoops, that was number 2 and 3, and then chain 2, 1 and 2, and coming back into that same space again. Now during my R&D, research and development, I realized that if I leave this gapping space too open, it looks really sloppy. So it looks really tight right now, but what you have here is that you have the first corner. See how they're working together? This is the side now, and now this is the other corner, just like you see. So now we're just gonna work down and chain one and work in the spaces just like you have been all along, and I want you to meet you back up in the corner in which we started. Remember that the first corner that we started off with was a partial corner, so when we come back on this particular round here is that we're gonna finish off that corner to finalize it before moving along. So I've come all the way back around. This is the partial corner. So just like I showed you on the other side, you can see that this here, 1 and 2 here, are a corner, and this here is another corner, but it's not done. So in order to do this, we're gonna come back, we're gonna chain one because we're moving along, and then we're gonna come into the same outside space and do 3 double crochet to finalize off this corner. And of course we need to turn the corner, so we have to do that chaining 2 before we do so. So 1 and 2, and then we just simply slip stitch into the top of the chain 3 to finalize this off. And so you can see that then the corners are now done just like you see, and we can trim off the loose ends there as well. So to begin the next round, very simple, is just like you would with a granny square. We just chain 3, so 1, 2 and 3. We immediately come into the gapping space and put 2 more double crochets in because the chaining of 3 already counted as 1. Okay, and that's half of the corner. We're gonna finish that when we get back, and then chain 1, and now this gapping space is now along this edge, and so we're just gonna put 3 double crochets in. And then the last one we didn't have that, so every time we go around this your sides are gonna grow even more. We chain 1 and then we begin the corner again. So where you see the corners just like so, the corners will always be 3 double crochet in. Just like you see, it'll be chain 2 and 3 double crochet. So you'll always do that on a corner, no big deal. And then we start then along the edge. So to do that is chain 1, and then each gapping space will automatically get 3 double crochets like we have been. So this is the concept of doing a rectangular granny square concept. Very easy. It's just a matter of getting started on the backbone to make the sizing work for you. Until next time, I'm Mikey on behalf of redheart.com as well as the Crochet Crowd. Join me next time as we have more free patterns and ideas. Until then, we'll see you.